Welcome to Angela Okafor Legal Desk, explaining legal principles across common law jurisdictions in clear, everyday language. This program is for general legal education only. It is not legal advice and does not create an attorney-client relationship. Laws vary across jurisdictions, and legal outcomes depend on the specific facts of each case. Today's topic is, who can legally give consent? Let's talk about it. Consent is more than simply saying, yes. For consent to be legally meaningful, a person must generally have the capacity to understand what they are agreeing to and be able to make that decision freely and voluntarily. While the law differs from one common law jurisdiction to another, this principle is widely recognized. Let's begin with children. Can a child legally consent to sexual activity? In many common law jurisdictions, the answer is no. The law recognizes that children generally do not have the legal capacity to consent to sexual activity, even if they appear to agree. In Nigeria, the Child Rights Act defines a child as anyone under the age of 18 and provides important protections for children. However, implementation varies because not every Nigerian state has adopted the act, and other criminal laws may also apply depending on the jurisdiction and the circumstances. The legal question is not simply whether a child said yes. The question is whether the child had the legal capacity to give valid consent. Now, what about people with intellectual or developmental disabilities, or certain mental health conditions? Many people believe that anyone with a mental illness or developmental disability can never consent. That is not always legally correct. In many jurisdictions, the issue is capacity, not simply diagnosis. But can the person understand what is happening? Can they appreciate the nature and consequences of the decision? Can they communicate a voluntary choice? Those are the kinds of questions courts may consider. Next, let's talk about alcohol. Can a person who is drunk give consent? Being intoxicated does not automatically mean someone cannot consent. However, if a person's level of intoxication is so severe that they cannot understand what is happening or cannot make or communicate a voluntary decision, the legal analysis may be very different. Exactly where that line is drawn depends on the applicable law and the facts. What about someone who is asleep or unconscious? A person who is asleep or unconscious cannot actively agree to sexual activity. In many jurisdictions, they cannot legally provide valid consent because they are unable to make or communicate a voluntary decision. So, is there such a thing as invalid consent? Yes. Depending on the law of the jurisdiction, consent may be legally ineffective if it is given by someone who lacks legal capacity, or if it is obtained through unlawful coercion, force, or other circumstances recognized by law. Now, let's look at this from an African perspective. Across many African communities, when a young teenager becomes pregnant, people sometimes say, "But she agreed." Now, wow, girls of these days are all spoiled. But the law often asks a different question. Did she have the legal capacity to agree in the first place? Likewise, when a person with a significant intellectual disability is sexually exploited, the question is not simply whether they appeared to cooperate. The legal question is whether they had the ability to understand, choose freely, and legally consent. Understanding that distinction helps separate cultural assumptions from legal principles. Consent is not only about saying yes. It is also about having the legal ability to say yes. This has been Angela Okafor Legal Desk, explaining legal principles across common law jurisdictions, one concept at a time. Feel it, but don't react. Strategize.